Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm going to be showing you a few different fun ways you can upcycle your button-ups and hoodies. And what we're going to do is combine these two items to get one unique piece. We'll be adding a hood, mask, pocket, sleeves, and also adding a patch on the back. This is a super easy project for all skill levels, and you can do it with any button-up and hoodie. With all that being said, let's get started. Getting started with supplies, you'll need one button-up shirt, and this can be any type of button-up. It can be a denim button-up, it can be a flannel. Pretty much any type of button-up will work. Going along with that button-up, you'll need one hoodie. And same goes for the hoodie. You can use any type of hoodie. And the last thing you'll need is Velcro. This is optional. If you're not going to be adding the mask onto the hood, you don't need the Velcro. But other than that, once you have your button-up, your hoodie, and your Velcro, it's time to start cutting them up. So what we're going to do first is grab our hoodie, cut off the hood, and we're going to be placing that on our button-up collar band. When it comes to removing the hood, you can either de-thread it or just use scissors and cut above the seam. After fully cutting, you can place the body off to the side, and as you can see, the bottom edge is kind of rough. So before we sew this onto the collar band, we're going to use a serger and serge that bottom edge. If you don't have a serger, you can use a zigzag stitch. And this is just a quick and easy way to clean that bottom edge up so it doesn't look so bad once you sew it onto the collar band. Grab your button up, open it up so the collar band is flat and the collar itself is not behind the collar band. And we're going to place the inside of the hoodie on the inside of the collar band, lining it up on the top edge above the button. Typically the hood will be longer than the collar band, so what you want to do is put a pleat in the center. And this is going to be different for all button-ups and hood sizes, so I can't give an exact number on how far to pleat it. You just want to run it up to the ends and then stitch it down. After stitching, double check, make sure it's sitting nice and flat and even on the collar band, then we're going to flip it upright and add a top stitch. And I do recommend using thread that matches the color of your collar band and hood so it hides any imperfections. But other than that, adding the hood is complete and it's really that easy to do. Next, we're going to be making a face mask that we can Velcro onto the hood, and we're going to be using the bottom edge of the hoodie. And the goal is to have it stretch over my face, so using this ribbing, it has more stretch than the actual fabric on the body, and that will allow it to stretch, and I can make it smaller and then drape it down from there into the shirt. Again, the dimensions are going to be a little bit different for this one based on how far you want it to drop down and how wide you want it, so it's kind of best to try it on, use a scrap piece of fabric to get the right dimensions. Once you have them cut, we're going to place the right sides together, stitch all the way around the outside edge, and leave the bottom edge open so we can flip the right sides out. And once you finish up, double check to make sure all the layers are stitched together, and we're going to flip the right sides out through the opening. To seal off the opening, we're going to push the sides inward so the right sides are together, place a few pins, and add a top stitch all the way around the outside edge. To get a nice even top stitch, I highly recommend using an edge presser foot. Before we sew on the Velcro, you may want to put on your button up with the hood, try it on to see if it's the right width and length. If everything is feeling good and it's the right size, we're going to flip it over to the right side, which is the side that's going to be facing outwards. I'll be using small strips of Velcro to attach it, and you can cut these anywhere from 3 to 4 inches. Place them on the top edge as close as you can to the sides. Before we stitch them down, we're going to first grab the button up and kind of line it up where we want it on the hood. So if we want to make any adjustments, we don't have to de-thread. This is another step you may want to try it on to see where your eye line is, because I'm lining mine up exactly with my eye line so the mask goes up past my nose. And then place the Velcro on the inside edge of the hood and stitch everything down. I did use sticky Velcro, that way I can kind of test things before I sew them down. It just makes it easier and you don't have to use pins. After sewing on the Velcro, your mask is complete. As you can see, mine is narrow, so it pulls that hood together. And that's kind of what I was going for. So you're going to want to play around with this to get the right size. And the fun thing about this is you can wear it a few different ways. You can wear it up, you can wear it down like a turtleneck, or not at all. Moving on to the next modification, we're going to be utilizing the pocket and the sleeves. So to start, we're going to be removing the pocket, and I de-threaded the top and the sides, and then I just cut the bottom edge. We're going to be adding this pocket onto the body of the button up, but for now we can place it off to the side and start cutting off the sleeves. And as far as removal, I'm just going to be cutting right along the seam. Also, cutting each side of the sleeve separately leaves you with a more precision cut. I will be utilizing more fabric on the body so it doesn't go to waste, but anything that's not used, I'm going to use for future projects. But for now, we can place it off to the side and grab our sleeve panels. This hoodie is a raglan cut, so the sleeves are a little bit different shape than what you're going to see on the button up. So I can't just directly replace the entire sleeve, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to grab the button up and I'm going to cut it on the inside of the arm opening seam. But if both of your garments are the same cut, you can just de-thread the arms and replace them really quick. And I'm going to leave about 4 to 5 inches of the original sleeve. This can vary. You can change it up. You can have 7 inches. It mainly comes down to preference and how you want it to look at the end. And I'm actually going to be doing a hybrid of both so you can kind of get an idea of what you can do. For now, we can place the body panel off to the side and grab all the sleeve panels. I want all the sleeves to be the same length, so I'm going to be cutting the hoodie sleeves to the same size as the button-up sleeves. Then I'm going to flip back the top of the button-up directly above the cuff buttons. Then I'm going to trim the hoodie sleeves to match the length. And what I'm doing is matching the length of the hoodie sleeve to the length of the middle section of the button-up. I want to replace that midsection of the button-up so that way it looks like an armband. The next thing we have to do is cut out the midsection of the button-up, and you want to give yourself a little bit of room above the cuff buttons. The width of the two sleeves don't line up, so what we're going to do is cut down the seam and add a chunk of fabric to match the width of the button-up. But for the moment, I'm just going to be working on one, so I'm going to place the second one off to the side. And the fabric piece you're going to add is totally based on the circumference of your button-up, so just do a little bit of math. Add that chunk, don't forget to add your seam allowances. Place the right sides together, add a few pins, and we're going to pull the opposite side inward, line up that second side, place a few pins, and stitch both sides to complete the sleeve. Pull the right sides out, grab the button-up sleeve, and before we start stitching, we're going to line them up just to see if the circumference lines up. If everything is looking good, we're going to flip the wrong sides out for the hoodie sleeve. Locate the side seam on the button-up sleeve, and we're going to line that up directly in the center of our added piece. Remember to put the right sides together, and this is overall going to help keep that added piece on the bottom side of the sleeve so it's not as noticeable. Once you have it lined up, we're going to stitch all the way around that outside edge. After stitching, pull the right sides out, double check, make sure all the layers got stitched together. If everything is looking good, we're going to add a top stitch directly on that new seam, and I will be adding the stitch on the button-up side. Feel free to add it on the button-up side or the sweatshirt side. I just like to add it on the button-up side because it's stiffer fabric, and once it's stretched, it's not going to break that seam. If you are modifying both sleeves, remember to do the same thing for the opposite sleeve. Grab the button-up, flip the wrong sides out, and for this step, we're essentially going to be doing the same thing as the previous step, but we're going to be adding it to the button-up. Once again, we're going to find that seam on the sleeve, and we're going to do our best to line it up exactly with the seam on the body. If the top part of your sleeve doesn't match the top part of the button-up, you can always kind of taper it or add a little bit more at the top to match the circumference. And from here, we're going to stitch both those sleeves on. Pull the right sides out, check to see if everything is lined up, those bottom seams are lined up, and if it's looking good, we're going to add a top stitch just like we did to the bottom side to the top side. And again, I'm going to be sewing directly on top of the button-up fabric. The top stitching is not mandatory, I just like the way it looks. It separates both of those fabrics, gives it more professional look, and overall will make it a little bit stronger. And that's going to complete our sleeve modifications. Next, we're going to be adding the pocket. And you can pretty much place this pocket anywhere on your garment. I'm going to be making mine specifically for a phone. So I'm going to place it lower, roll the bottom edge over so it's flat. As you can see, most of the sides are already rolled over and clean looking besides that inside edge. An easy way to clean that one off is to roll it over on the edge so the right sides are together and add a stitch. Roll the pocket back over the stitch and you got a clean edge. From here, we're going to roll the rest of those sides in and add a top stitch all the way around the outside edge, leaving the pocket open. And just like that, the pocket's installed. And feel free to add more pockets out of the remaining hoodie fabric. The last modification is adding a patch on the back. My hoodie doesn't have a graphic design, so I just cut a plain square out of the fabric. Another fun thing you can do is embroider this panel or screen print it, but you can place it anywhere on that back and stitch the outside edge. I do recommend pinning it down so it's not moving around and becomes offset as you're sewing. I kept mine with raw edges because over time they're going to weather, it's going to get fuzzy and make for a nice look. But that's going to complete the final modification of adding a patch on the back, and the final step is adding your branding. Of course, this step is optional. If you don't have branding, you don't need to add anything. I just used strips of leather that I added with double-sided rivets. And if you think of any other fun modifications that are simple, leave them down in the comments. And there you have it, your upcycled project is complete. Hopefully you can use all these ideas on different garments, whether that's a button-up, a jacket, a denim jacket. You can pretty much do this across the board on any clothing. If you're looking for more upcycled ideas, definitely leave that in the comments below. I'd love to see how your projects turned out, so tag me on Instagram at ProperFitClothing. But until then, I'm gonna keep the videos coming at you, so I'll see you next time.